Matthew chapter 26 and verse 26. And as they were eating, Yahawashi took bread and blessed it and brake it and gave it to the disciples and said, "Take, eat, this is my body." And he took the cup and gave thanks and gave it to them, saying, "Drink ye all of it, for this is my blood of the New Testament, which is shed for many for the remission of sins. But I say unto you, I will not drink henceforth of this fruit of the vine until the day when I drink it new with you in my Father's kingdom." All right, Shalom, brothers and sisters. We want to give all glory and praises to Yahweh, Basham, Yahawashi. Grace and mercy be bound to the hopeful elect scattered throughout the four corners of the earth that are keeping this truth, all sincerity, and keeping the gospel and the faith of Yahawashi HaMashiach. Today we're going over some additional information and precepts that we did not bring out on our previous lesson, which was the drink from the fruit of the vine is wine, not water. So we're just doing this because, as we know, as we're approaching the Passover, we want to make sure that we remove all the leaven out of the doctrine that people have tried to put in by, saying that the Passover cup was water instead of wine. So if you go back and you watch that old lesson, you'll see the different precepts that show you the analogy between blood and wine. Okay, so that's why it's very important for you brothers and sisters to watch it, so that way you're not confused by anybody throwing around some false doctrine. So what we're going to do, a part where we're going to address something that has been said by those that believe that the Passover cup was water instead of wine. And what they did is they went into the book of Judges, and we're going to go ahead and read that real quick.
It's the book of Judges, chapter 13 and verse 7. But he said unto me, Behold, thou shalt conceive and bear a son, and now drink no wine, nor strong drink, neither eat any unclean thing. For the child shall be a Nazarite to Yahweh from the womb to the day of his death. Because he was under the Nazarite vow. Because it stated that it was alluded to that we were saying that wine was implemented in the Passover during Samson's time, which is not true. Because it's nowhere in the scriptures. You can go to the beginning of when the Passover was first implemented, that wine nor water was no part of the Passover, man. So Samson would be able to partake in the Passover.
Correct. Yeah.
Because wine was not implemented in the Old Testament as part of the Passover. It didn't come implemented until Yahawashi implemented the wine into the Passover.
And also you got to remember that the believers in Yahawashi would have been the ones that would have been drinking the blood of the new covenant, which was represented by the wine that he passed around to the disciples.
Right.
So if you were Old Testament only in this time, or even in that time, if you didn't believe in Yahawashi, you were not instituting this, because this is Yahawashi's Passover that he instituted with his disciples. So wine, for someone to imply or say that what we're saying that the Passover cup had wine, that is wrong, because Samson wouldn't have been able to keep the Passover.
Right.
That is very disingenuous, because we're talking about the time of Samson was like 1100 years before Yahawashi. Mm-hmm. So they're not even contemporaries. He wouldn't have been sitting at the table at the Passover with Yahawashi when that was instituted. So that really all says right there that, one, that this particular vow, based on the way in the law it was originally written to keep the Passover with the lamb, unleavened bread, and the bitter herbs, he would have been able to keep it, because there was nowhere in there where either wine or water was required to be drunken during the Passover. There was no mention of that being part of the Passover plate or meal. Okay, so this right here is what you call a straw man.
Right.
This is a straw man argument, where somebody's bringing out a straw man to attack it, to basically try and discredit our strong points, proving that the Passover cup was wine and not water.
And it's not scriptural, man. I mean,
Samson would be able to keep the Passover.
Yeah, he would have been able to keep the Passover under the form it was under the law.
That's right.
Not under the believers under Yahawashi. It would have been different. So now we're going to go into number 6 to show you what that Nazirite vow is. So in the Nazirite vow, in Numbers chapter 6 and verse 3, He shall separate himself from wine and strong drink, and shall drink no vinegar of wine or vinegar of strong drink, neither shall he drink any liquor of grapes, nor eat moist grapes or dried. Okay, so he cannot drink any wine during his separation. Okay, this is under the Nazirite vow. Again, this is the law of the Nazirites, and it tells you, speak unto the children of Israel in verse 2, and say unto them, whether either man or woman shall separate themselves to vow a vow of a Nazirite. So you don't have to be born into it like Samson was. You can actually keep the vow to yourself, to the Lord, and separate yourself as a Nazirite by doing these things. Okay, growing your hair out, not drinking anything that comes from, not consuming or drinking anything that comes from the grape. And then you would have a point where you would end the vow. Okay, so when we go down into the law, now remember, Samson was a Nazirite from birth until death. Okay?
And if any brother chose to do the Nazirite vow, they can choose to do it for however long they want.
Exactly. They can end it, they can start it and end it however long they want. It doesn't matter how long it is. They're taking a vow, they end it, and then they can go back to doing what they're doing. Now we're going to go into that in verse 20.
How you end it.
On how you end it, Con. It says, and the priest shall wave them for a wave offering before the Lord. This is holy for the priest, with the wave breast and heave shoulder, and after that the Nazirite may drink wine. This is the law of the Nazirite who hath vowed, and of his offering unto the Lord for his separation. Beside that his hand shall get, according to the vow which he vowed, so he must do after the law of his separation. So when they end their vow, and when you go further up, it tells you that they're going to shave their hair in verse 19. So you go here, as you see it, it's going to say, shall put them upon the hands of the Nazirite after the hair of his separation is shaven. So they will shave their hair. Then after that they may drink wine, because they ended the vow of their separation. So the brother is going to go into somebody that did the same thing in the book of Acts.
Right. This is Acts chapter 18 and verse 18. And Paul, after this, tarried there yet a good while, and then took his leave of the brethren, and sailed thence into Syria, and with him Priscilla and Aquila, having shorn his head in Centuria, for he had a vow. Now Paul had a Nazirite vow he was actively partaking in, and it said that he had shorn his head. Now we just read in Numbers chapter 6 the reason why he was shorn his head, because he was ending his vow. Possibly he was about to go partake in a feast where he was going to drink wine.
That's correct.
Just like it said in what the priest was doing. Now this was possible what Paul was going to do. He shaved his head so that he can go partake. We can say maybe it was the Passover to go drink wine.
Yeah, because if you were getting ready to possibly drink wine, you'd have to end that vow,
right?
Of the vow of the Nazirite, and get it over with, so that way you can partake of drinking wine, like the brother was saying. So now the importance of this, we're going to go back into where this started from, or where's the first time that bread and wine was shown in the gospel.
Right.
Okay. So you saw, we already read Matthew 26, where Yahawashi offered bread and a cup, which we've already shown that cup was wine. Go back to that first lesson to see the breakdown on that. So we're going to go into somebody that's very important in the scriptures, who only shows up one time, and he goes away, and he only does one thing.
Right.
Okay. So now we go into Genesis chapter 14 and verse 17. And the king of Sodom went out to meet him after his return from the slaughter of Chelamer and of the kings that were with him at the valley of Sheva, which is the king's dale. And Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought forth bread and wine, and he was a priest of the Most High God. Good.
And brothers try to say that there wasn't no special occasion there or nothing, but Abraham had just got through defeating nations, man.
Yeah. So you see in verse 18, Melchizedek brought forth bread and wine, all right, to him and blessed him. Okay, so that's the only thing he did. He brought forth only bread and wine to him and blessed him. And hence the reason why, when you go into Matthew chapter 26, we see in like manner who Yahawashi is also called the high priest.
Right.
Okay, you go to Hebrews, it breaks down that he is now the high priest. So he acted in the same way. And what did he do? He took bread and he took wine and brake and blessed it. That's why you see in 26. And they were eating, and Yahawashi took bread and blessed it and braked it. Okay? And he gave it to the disciples for him and said, this is do in remembrance of me. And he said he was not going to take forth and drink of the fruit of the vine, which is the cup he gave thanks and gave to them, until he drinks it new in the kingdom of heaven.
Right. And even right there in that Matthew 26, this is Yahawashi implementing the new covenant, the new Passover, which is with wine and unleavened bread and the lamb.
Exactly.
And the bitter herbs. This is the implication of the wine into the Passover.
Correct. Yeah, and it was actual cup of wine.
Right.
That's why he let the disciples know that this fruit of the vine, he's not going to drink of it again until he drinks it new in his Father's kingdom. So now we're going to go into another precept that's going to end that particular subject, so you can see. Now, this is dealing with the blessing, which we'll start out at verse 12. Because you see here, if you notice, it says the promises of God, and it has the blessing verses. Leviticus 26, 1 through 13, and Deuteronomy 28 through 1 and 14, which implies the kingdom of heaven. These are kingdom of heaven based blessings. So the brother's going to read the verses and break it down.
Just like we did in the previous lesson, we showed that even Yahawashi spoke of it in Luke 22 and 29 of a kingdom, the Most High's kingdom, and how it's going to be a big feast in the kingdom.
That's right.
Right? He's going to sit at the table, eating and drinking, sitting on thrones, judging the 12 tribes of Israel. That's what Yahawashi said in Luke 22 and 29.
And we showed in that one, we had the Feast of Meats and the Feast of Wines.
Right. And this is all showing the feast.
Correct.
What they're going to have. These scriptures, we presented scriptures in the last lesson, and here's one more right here.
This actually lines up perfectly with that last one.
Yep. This is Deuteronomy chapter 7 and 12. Wherefore it shall come to pass, if ye hearken to these judgments and keep and do them, that Yahweh thy God shall keep unto thee the covenant and the mercy which he sware unto thy fathers. And he will love thee and bless thee and multiply thee. He will also bless the fruit of thy womb and the fruit of thy land, thy corn and thy wine and thy oil, the increase of thy kind and the flocks of thy sheep in the land which he sware unto thy fathers to give thee. Now this was the King James Version. Now we're going to go to the New Living. And let's read it and see what it says. We actually went into the New Living, the NIV,
the New King James,
the New King James,
NASB,
and they all said the same thing.
It's right here.
This is the New Living. He will love you and bless you, and he will give you many children. He will give fertility to your land and your animals. When you arrive in the land he swore to give your ancestors, you will have large harvests of grain, new wine, and olive oil, and great herds of cattle, sheep, and goats. So there you see new wine. The same new wine that Yahawashi spoke of in Matthew, the same new wine. This is the new wine that's going to be drunk in the kingdom that was spoken of in Luke 22 and 29 that brothers are going to be partaking in when in the feast.
And Yahawashi did not drink of any new wine. Again, there's no proof. He actually said, this is the last time I'm going to be able to drink this with y'all. However, in the kingdom, I'm going to drink it new with y'all.
And this is fresh, new wine. That's what it's saying. When it says new, it means it's fresh wine.
It's new wine, and like we said,
Right.
NIV has it, new wine. When you
Yep.
go to the other ones, you go to CSB, it also says new wine.
wine.
The NASB, it says what? New wine.
Wine.
NASB 95, new wine.
Wine.
LSB, new wine.
All the way down.
NET, new wine. So, I mean, you keep going. I mean, most of these newer translations say new wine.
This is what Yahawashi was speaking of. The new wine in the kingdom that's going to be drink, man.
Yeah, and
We're
that's
gonna eat and drink at the table
Yep.
with Yahawashi.
Yeah, so that Passover cup, again, is not water, it's wine.
God.
When you go back to the original lesson, and with this one, just like we showed you, the Nazirite vow, and using Samson as an example, again, is a straw man argument because Samson was not a contemporary of Yahawashi and the apostles. He's from 1100 years before their time, so therefore he wouldn't have partaken of it. 2, we showed that Paul, who took a vow and ended the vow
Right.
himself in Acts 18, you would end your vow because the one thing you can't do while you're on the vow, the main thing it tells you
Yep.
is you cannot take of anything that comes from the grape. So if you end your vow, you may drink wine.
Right.
That's what it tells you when you end the vow. Now you can do
Now
it.
you can do it.
So we're showing that that's one of the reasons why he would have ended it, is if he was going to partake in a wine, possibly for a Passover.
Right.
And then also, we show it again with Melchizedek, that Melchizedek, the only thing he did with Abraham after that war is he blessed him and he gave him bread and wine. And this is analogous. This is a very much of a similitude. It tells you the similitude of Yahawashi is found throughout the Old Testament. And what did he do when he went to the disciples on the Passover? He brought forth bread and wine.
Right.
And that's the reason why, again, we're saying the Passover cup cannot be water, had to be wine.
It all goes together.
Yeah.
It,
After he takes down the nations,
after he takes down the nations, we're going to have a celebration in the kingdom.
Yep,
We're going to have
so
a big feast.
a big feast. It's going to be feast of meats, feast of wines. I mean, it's very obvious that that's the fruit of the vine that he's not going to drink of.
Right.
So he's not going to, the fruit of the vine, the drink of the fruit of the vine is wine.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not water. It can't be water. So that's it for now. This is just a build upon that. We wanted to keep it kind of short and sweet. So with that, we're going to give all glory and praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahawashi. Grace and mercy be abound to the hopeful elect scattered throughout the four corners of the earth. Shalom.